Welcome back. We'll be reading the Children's Bible, chapter 36 through 40. The Dreams of Two Men. Genesis chapter 40, verses 1 through 23. Joseph stayed in the prison cell for many days. Then one morning, two prisoners came to Joseph. They had a problem, and we had terrible dreams last night. Can you tell us what they mean? Joseph said, I can't help you, but my God can. The first man had been Pharaoh's cupbearer. He said in my dream, I saw a vine. On the vine, there are 3 branches. As soon as the branches had little flowers on them, the blossoms became grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and gave it to him. Joseph said a quiet prayer, asking God for help. Then he knew the answer. This is what your dream means. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will say, You are free, but please, Joseph added. Could you mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison? The second man had Pharaoh's chief baker. He said, in my dream, there were 3 baskets of pastries on my head. In the top basket were pastries for Pharaoh. Then birds landed on me. They ate the pastries, which were meant for Pharaoh. Joseph took a deep breath. God had shown him what the dream meant. It was not nice. The 3 baskets mean 3 days. In 3 days' time, Pharaoh will cut off your head, and the birds will eat your dead body. 3 days later, it happened exactly as Joseph had predicted. The Pharaoh's dream. Genesis chapter 41, verses 1 through 8. 2 long years went by. All that time, Joseph heard nothing from Pharaoh's cupbearer. He kept busy taking care of the other prisoners. He shared his food with them and scrubbed the cells. Day and day he saw the sunshine stream through the barred windows. He prayed God might help him become free someday. One morning in the palace, Pharaoh woke up yelling, I've had such a bad dream, but it was so real. I'm sure it means something very important. Pharaoh looked at his servants. Don't just stand there. Find someone who knows what dreams mean. He roared at them. The servants hopped away in fright. All the wizards, magicians, and wise men came. They listened as Pharaoh told about his dream. They looked at charts, drew pictures on their scrolls, and shook their heads. No, they did not know what the dreams could mean. Eat and skinny cows. Genesis chapter 41, verses 9 through 32. The royal cupbearer stood next to Pharaoh's. The royal cupbearer stood next to Pharaoh. He made sure Pharaoh's cup stayed full of wine. It was not an easy thing to do when Pharaoh was so angry. Suddenly, the cupbearer remembered a promise he had made. He felt terrible that he had forgotten Joseph for so long. Pharaoh, the cupbearer, said, When I was in prison, I made a promise to a Hebrew slave. He told me what my dream meant. I was supposed to tell you about him. I know he could help you now. Pharaoh nodded. Bring this prisoner to me. 2 guards ran to fetch Joseph. Joseph shaved and put on fresh clothes and went to see Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, I had a dream, and no one can tell me what it means. Can you? No, I can't, but God can, Joseph said. Joseph said, Pharaoh said, in my dream I was standing by the river Nile. Then 7 fat cows came out of the river. After them came 7 thin and ugly cows. The 7 cows ate up the 7 fat cows, but when they were finished eating, they still looked as thin as before. But there is more. I also dreamed about 7 full heads of grain. They grew on a single stalk, but after them 7 other heads sprouted, but they were withered and burned by the wind. The sin grain swallowed up the 7 pieces of good grain. I told all this to the wizards. No one could tell me what it meant. Pharaoh looked at Joseph. Joseph stared at the ground. He prayed, Please God, what does it all mean? Then he knew, just like God opened Joseph's mind. He knew what the dreams meant. Pharaoh, the 2 dreams mean the same thing. There will be 7 years of plenty to eat and drink. All the poor will be fed. But after the 7 years will come another 7. Then the crops will not grow. All the food will run out. Everyone will go hungry during those years. Joseph told Pharaoh these things would happen very soon. Joseph helps Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 41, verses 33 through 42, verses 3. Joseph stood before the Pharaoh. He took a deep breath. Pharaoh should put someone in charge of all the food in Egypt. Store the extra away. When the crops fail, the people can eat the food in the storehouses. Then they won't have to go hungry. Pharaoh called his advisors. They mumbled and nodded their heads, then mumbled some more. They stood back as Pharaoh spoke. Your God is with you in a very special way. He helps you to see where others are blind. I feel I can trust you. You will be the man for this job. You will rule my house, my people, and all the food stores in the land. There will be no one greater than you in all of Egypt except for myself. Joseph staggered back at a step. Just that morning he had been a prisoner. Now Pharaoh is giving him an Egyptian name. It meant God speaks, he lives. Because Pharaoh knew God had spoken to Joseph, during the next years it happened, just the way Joseph had said it would. There would be 7 years of good crops. Joseph filled all the storehouses, then built new ones, filled those too. Then the 7 bad years came. Egypt was the only country with food. People from all over went to find something to eat. The famine, as the years without food were called, reached all the way into the land of Canaan. That was where Joseph's father and brothers still lived. They had grown rich during the 7 good years. Once the 7 years bad had started, though Jacob and his 11 sons ran out of food, most of the sons were grown up and had families of their own to feed. Everyone was hungry. The brothers grumbled. What will we do now? Where will we find food? Jacob knew there was food in Egypt. He He had heard that from merchants traveling through the area. He told his sons, "Why don't you, if you don't starve to death, then go to Egypt. Take money with you and buy us some food." The brothers learned their lesson. Genesis chapter 42, verses 4 through 38. The brothers loaded up their camels and donkeys. They rode off towards Egypt. They rode off toward Egypt. Not all of Jacob's sons left, however. Benjamin stayed at home. Benjamin was Jacob's favorite son. After losing Joseph, Jacob never let the last child of Rachel out of his sight. Jacob still missed Joseph terribly, but Benjamin made his father laugh and smile. "No," Jacob thought, "Benjamin must stay here with me. What would I do if I lost Rachel's second child, as well as her first?" Together, Benjamin and Jacob waved at the 10 brothers. Soon they could all see it was a cloud of dust. Jacob took Benjamin's hand. The father and son began to pray. They prayed for the 10 brothers. They prayed that they would be kept safe and would come home soon. When the brothers arrived in Egypt, they went straight to the man in charge of selling grain. That was Joseph. They did not see who he was. Joseph looked and acted too much like an Egyptian. Joseph knew who they were, yet he did not tell them. Instead, he called them spies. "We're not spies, we're brothers," they told him. "There were 12 of us, but only one is gone, and the youngest is with our father." "I don't believe you," Joseph said. "If you're not spies, then prove it by going home. Bring the youngest to me in the meantime. I will keep one of you as prisoner." Joseph pointed at his brother Simon. There, the brothers stood up with their mouths open. Then Joseph said, "But first you all must spend 3 days in prison." When the 3 days were over, 9 of the 10 brothers rode home. On the way, they discovered that money had been used to pay for grain had been given back to them. "Oh no," they moaned. "The Egyptian will think we stole the grain." When the brothers arrived home, they told Jacob what had happened. They asked if they could take Benjamin back to Egypt. "Absolutely not. No one is taking my Benjamin from me." "No, Benjamin stays here." Jacob would not even listen to the brothers. He thought it is bad enough for that Joseph's dead. Now they have left Simon behind. No, they will never take Benjamin away. Oh, hold on. Yeah, well, that was the end.